I am Weishan. The world sees me as the sharpest blade of Wu Feng, an assassin hidden beneath a gentle appearance. Cautious, calculating, restrained, and unpredictable. Skilled in disguise, lurking and hiding my true heart, I am thought to be cold and emotionless, without ties or weaknesses. In everyone's eyes, I grew up in killing and cruelty, long accustomed to coldness, betrayal, and desperate gambles. Mortal love and worldly fireworks are nothing but illusory burdens to me. Yet, no one knows that all I have ever longed for in this life is the most ordinary and simple mortal peace. Since I could remember, I have been trapped in the sunless cage of Wu Feng, with no name, no family, no way back, no right to choose. My childhood held no tenderness or carefree days, only endless trials, brutal fights, and life-or-death struggles. Wu Feng taught me to survive, to endure, to disguise, and to kill decisively, but it never taught me tenderness, preference, peace, or the tranquility of ordinary days. I have witnessed fellow disciples killing each other, the coldness of human hearts, lives treated as worthless weeds, and sincerity deemed the cheapest thing alive. In the rules of Wu Feng, softness is a dead end, affection is a weakness, and kindness is a fatal flaw. Therefore, I hid all my tenderness, cowardice, and longing, turning myself into a cold and heartless blade. I learned to walk the world wearing a docile mask, conceal my edge and killing intent, move cautiously, and calculate everything, bearing all storms and desperate situations alone. The only obsession in my life is freedom. I trained relentlessly, endured in silence, took dangerous missions, and sneaked into the Gong Mansion step by step, never to serve Wu Feng or chase glory in killing, but to seize a chance to break free from shackles and live a life of my own. I only longed to escape endless slaughter and confinement, walk out of the eternal darkness, and live as an ordinary person. No grand glory, no dazzling fame, only trivial mortal fireworks, peaceful years, freedom from restraint and worldly ties. I once believed my life would only consist of missions and lurking, killing and disguise, wandering and loneliness. I was certain that someone like me, who crawled out of hell, deserved no tenderness, no preference, no fulfillment, no pure and sincere love. I had long prepared for a lonely and desolate ending, thinking I would spend my remaining years alone with blades and endless solitude. Until I infiltrated the Gong Mansion and met Gong Ziyu. He is the purest moonlight of the Gong Mansion, a youthful noble born in gentleness and sincerity, untouched by worldly evil and human filth, open, magnanimous, and kind. He knows nothing of schemes, defenses, or worldly cruelty, treating everyone with wholehearted sincerity and tenderness. At first, I only regarded him as a pawn in my mission, a stepping stone to my freedom. I disguised myself meticulously, pretended to be gentle and compliant, determined to finish the task smoothly, leave as soon as possible, and chase the freedom I had craved for years. But I never imagined there would be someone in this world who would treat a scarred, calculating me with unreserved kindness. Gong Ziyu's tenderness is never deliberate flattery or calculated compromise, but innate sincerity, inherent goodness, and exclusive preference without reservation. He sees through the alienation in my eyes, senses the wariness in my heart, and perceives the disguise beneath my gentleness, yet he never forces me to confess, never blames my defenses, never resents my concealment. He merely tolerates all my unease, accepts all my brokenness, and heals all the wind and frost of my past with gentle persistence. Those who grow up in darkness crave mortal light the most. For more than 20 years, I have seen the coldest human hearts, the cruelest rules, and the most desperate predicaments. No one has ever stood before me as a shield, feared my suffering, or treated me with pure sincerity. Everyone who approached me did so for use, temptation, or balance. Only Gong Ziyu cares for me for no reason, protects me wholeheartedly, and gives me all his tenderness. He remembers my trivial preferences, understands my silence, and pities the coldness and exhaustion lingering in my eyes. He rushes forward desperately to shield me when I'm in danger, becoming my firmest armor. When everyone doubts and suspects me, he trusts me unconditionally, favors me resolutely, and guards me with all his strength. He whispers gently that he will never let me suffer again, that he will grant me peace and reassurance for all the years to come. For the first time in my life, I truly feel what it means to be cherished and protected. I once thought freedom was my only salvation. But after meeting him, I finally understand that true salvation is someone who knows your loneliness, cherishes your perseverance, tolerates your brokenness, and loves every part of you. The freedom I pursued desperately was to escape darkness, while the tenderness he gives me leads me to mortal light. I began to grow greedy, wavering, and out of control. I came only for freedom, yet in the days of gentle companionship, I willingly stayed for him, sank for him, and abandoned the long-craved way back to freedom. I was once a heartless, untethered blade of Wufeng, yet meeting Gong Ziyu gave me a weakness, a concern, an unwillingness to let go, an irreplaceable obsession. I struggled and tangled countless times in the depth of my heart. I knew my identity, my mission, my sins, and my dirty past. I was a hidden danger beside him, a taboo that could implicate and hurt him at any time. I feared my darkness would stain his purity, my past would destroy his peace, and my blood-stained killing intent would never match the clean moonlight of his soul. I longed to stay by his side, clinging to this hard-won tenderness, yet constantly feared that this beautiful dream was fragile, that fulfillment was unattainable, and that everything would end in vain. I have witnessed the despair of Yunkei's fall and the regret of parted companions. I know well that those who belong to Wufeng are doomed to rough fates, fruitless love, and rare happy endings. I dared not hope for perfection or indulge in tenderness, yet I could never bear to let go. He is the only light in my gloomy life, the only tenderness in my lonely years, the mortal fireworks I would sacrifice everything to hold on to. My life has always been forced and involuntary. Once I endured for survival and lurked for freedom, now I fall in love for him, care for him, and willingly confine myself for him. It turns out the gentlest cage in the world is not the shackles of Wufeng or the rules of the Gong Mansion, but one person's deep affection and exclusive preference. I once craved lifelong wandering and freedom, yet now I am willing to dwell in one place for him, stay by his side year after year, and never leave. The freedom I yearned for finally takes shape. Once freedom meant escape, wandering, and solitary liberty, now freedom means having a place to belong, someone to miss, and a home to return to. I no longer long for distant futures or solitary freedom. All I want is to stay within the Gong Mansion, beside him. Two people under one roof, passing ordinary days, cooking and living simply, peacefully, and undisturbed for a lifetime. The world says I am deep-minded and overly stubborn, yet no one knows how little I have ever wanted. I never craved power or prosperity. I am merely an ordinary person trapped in darkness and loneliness for far too long, desperate to grasp my own beam of light and hold my own tenderness. I am Weishan, an assassin from Wufeng, a wanderer covered in wind and frost, and the beloved woman cherished and missed wholeheartedly by Gong Ziyu. I once held a sharp blade, dwelled in darkness, and endured endless coldness. Fortunately, I met my moonlight in my remaining years, casting off my edge, laying down my armor, and running wholeheartedly towards tenderness. I have no regrets entering the Gong Mansion, no regrets meeting Ziyu, no regrets falling in love, no regrets being trapped in deep affection. If true perfection exists in this world, I ask for no eternal glory or unrestrained freedom. I only wish to stay with him through every season, accompany him through ordinary fireworks, and live a peaceful and steady life for all time. I often sit alone in the courtyard evening breeze, gazing quietly at the layered eaves and gentle moonlight of the Gong Mansion, recalling the ups and downs of my half-life journey. Once, I was a puppet pushed forward by fate and tightly bound by rules, with no right to choose, no chance to rest, and even no autonomy over my joys and sorrows. Wufeng polished away all my innocence and edges, teaching me indifference and alienation, teaching me to hide my heart and abandon tenderness. It made me believe that my life would only circulate in killing and loneliness, never touching mortal warmth, never deserving peaceful years. I once thought freedom was my only salvation, so I endured in silence for years, bore heavy burdens, endured loneliness and suspicion, and carried sins without flinching even when sneaking into dangerous situations with an uncertain life and death. But after taking root in the Gong Mansion and leaning by his side, I finally understand that true liberation is never escaping all shackles, but having someone willing to accept your imperfections, tolerate your past, and let you dare to take off all disguises and be your truest self. In my life, I have seen too many false warmth and utilitarian companionship. All worldly kindness comes with purpose. All approach comes with calculation. Trade-offs and gains and losses are the normalcy I have long seen through. I have long been accustomed to not expecting, not relying on, not craving. Accustomed to relying on myself for everything, leaving retreats for everything, and hiding everything in my heart. But Gong Ziyu broke all my cognitions. His love has no calculation, no reservation, no conditions. He knows I bear the shackles of Wufeng, knows my hands have been stained with dust, knows there are countless unspeakable secrets and sins hidden in my heart, yet he never has the slightest disgust or suspicion. He loves me, regardless of past wind and frost, regardless of identity shackles, regardless of past right and wrong, purely loving me as I am, loving my coldness, my stubbornness, my vulnerability, my forbearance, loving all my bright and embarrassed appearances. On countless silent nights, I was once overwhelmed by inferiority and panic. After all, I belonged to Wufeng with the fate of an assassin engraved in my bones and endless past sins that can never be washed clean. The Gong Mansion is upright and pure, the cleanest heaven and earth in the world, while I am a traveler breaking through from mud and darkness, covered in wind and frost and mottled heart, like an out-of-place grain of dust. I feared my existence would stain the clarity of the Gong Mansion, disrupt his peaceful life, and burden his pure original heart. I know well how cruel the fate of Wufeng people is, that none of my fellow disciples can get a good ending. Those fresh lives and sincere obsessions eventually dissipate in wind and rain, leaving only regret and desolation. I panicked countless times that the time I spent with him would eventually be defeated by fate, and this hard-won tenderness would eventually be a fleeting illusion. But he always calms all my unease and hesitation with the gentlest attitude. He never lets me sink into internal friction alone, never allows me to deny and struggle with myself. He will hold my hand and tell me not to fear the past, not to be trapped by fate, not to belittle myself. He says the past is the prologue. Sins can be relieved, wind and frost can end, and my remaining life no longer has to live for Wufeng, no longer bound by fate. He is willing to accompany me to break free from all shackles, bid farewell to all darkness, and fight against all unfair destinies. In his eyes, I am never a cold blade or a sinful assassin, just an ordinary person who has suffered countless grievances, craves tenderness, and deserves exclusive preference. It is his certainty and tenderness that melt the ice accumulated in my heart for years, letting me finally believe that I can also have preference and perfection, and break free from the doomed tragic fate. I once never understood why mortal love makes people sink, obsess, and devote their whole lives. I have seen too many people go crazy for love, suffer for love, and choose for love, thinking it absurd and cumbersome. For me, who has been in killing and struggled for survival all year round, love is the most useless thing. Tenderness is the most illusory thing, and only survival and freedom are the only true meanings. But after meeting Gong Ziyu, I gradually understand that love is never a burden or a shackle, but a glimmer of light in despair, warm sunshine in cold nights, and the confidence to support me through all storms and sufferings. It is he who makes me realize that life is not only about survival and salvation, but also about tenderness and fireworks, concern and pursuit, and years of companionship and peace of mind. I begin to cling to the days and nights in the Gong Mansion. Cling to the clear wind and moonlight, courtyard fireworks here, cling to the gentle smile between his brows and eyes, cling to the warmth and certainty in his palms. Once I preferred walking alone and unrestrained freedom without ties, but now I prefer mortal fireworks and peaceful days of two people together. I will quietly accompany him to read and sit in meditation, accompany him to enjoy rain and wind, accompany him to count the trivial and beautiful moments of fleeting years. These ordinary daily trivialities are the tenderness I never dared to expect or touch in the past, the perfection I secretly longed for in endless darkness. I once endured countless dark days alone, thinking my life would only be cold and lonely, but I never thought fate would finally give me a gentle salvation, making my desolate life bloom with gentle flowers. I know well how much I owe him. I came with a purpose, accompanied him with secrets, was full of calculations and disguises at first, intending to borrow his peace in exchange for my freedom. But he repaid falsehood with sincerity, healed scars with tenderness, and tolerated imperfection with sincerity. He trusted me and favored me unreservedly, guarded me with all his strength even when the world doubted me and the Gong Mansion rejected me. He was originally a youth untouched by the world, carefree and untroubled, destined for peaceful and smooth years. But because of meeting me, he was involved in disputes, endured criticism, experienced dangers, and suffered ties. I often feel guilty, fearing that I cannot give him equal perfection, that my fate will eventually implicate him, and that I cannot protect these hard-won days of peace even with all my efforts. Yet I have never regretted it in the slightest. Even if the encounter began with calculation, even if companionship is full of frustrations, even if the future is still full of unknown storms, I still have no regrets about this meeting. If I had never met him, my life would only be a ruthless blade, wandering and lonely until the end, never knowing what peace of mind is, never tasting what exclusive preference is. It is he who awakens my long-buried true heart, teaches me tenderness, teaches me concern, teaches me pursuit, teaches me perfection. Once I lived for survival and freedom, now I live for passion, companionship, and lifelong peace. My life is no longer cold killing and endless dormancy, but finally has temperature, expectation, and destination. I gradually reconcile with my past self. I no longer dwell on the sufferings of youth, the embarrassment of having no one to rely on, the scarred past and the involuntary choices. All the darkness and suffering are to let me arrive at the tenderness of this moment. All the forbearance and wandering are to let me meet him who is wholeheartedly mine. Without the ups and downs of the past, I would not understand the value of peace. Without the ice and loneliness of once, I would not understand the healing of tenderness. I accept all my imperfections, all the wind and frost and sins on me, and all my bumpy fate, because I know all past events are prologues, and for the rest of my life, with him by my side, everything can be relieved and the future can be pursued bravely. Now I finally take off the sharp edge of an assassin and lay down the long tensed armor of defense. I no longer need to be cautious and calculating at every step, no longer need to pretend to be gentle and docile deliberately, no longer need to bear all storms and despair alone. I can frankly show my softness and vulnerability, freely feel the tenderness and beauty of the world, and stay at ease and pursue sincerely. I am no longer the involuntary blade of Wufeng. I am Weishan, the exclusive lover of Gong Ziyu, an ordinary person who possesses mortal fireworks and years of peace. I no longer cling to the narrow sense of freedom, no longer crave unrestrained wandering. True freedom is never being alone and roaming everywhere, but having a place for the heart to return, feelings to rely on, hope for the future, and warmth for the rest of life. It means having firm preference despite wind and rain ups and downs, unwavering companionship despite bumpy roads, and gentle company despite worldly vicissitudes. Being trapped in his deep affection is the most willing shackle in my life. Staying by his side is the most certain and perfect destination in my life. In the years to come, I am willing to abandon all killing intent, restrain all edge, and accompany him to watch the 4 seasons and mortal fireworks in the Gong Mansion. Watching flowers bloom in the courtyard in spring, enjoying evening breeze and stars in summer, seeing fallen leaves return to dust in autumn, and guarding the warmth of the year-end in winter. I am willing to wash away all vanity and coldness, accompany him day and night with tenderness, and guard his remaining years with sincerity. No matter how many storms and frustrations lie ahead, no matter how many fateful shackles remain, I am willing to stand side by side and walk hand in hand with him. He guards my peaceful years and gives me mortal tenderness, so I will guard his original heart and carefree years, repaying his unreserved preference and salvation with all my sincerity and deep affection for the rest of my life. Half my life in darkness, I finally meet moonlight. Wandering all my life, I finally have a home. How fortunate I am in this life to enter the Gong Mansion, meet Ziyu, gain true heart, and guard perfection. For the rest of my life, I lay down my blade for mortal fireworks, devote my heart to every passing day, take love as my ferry and affection as my home, staying together year after year and living in peace forever.